The Fern case. This might come as a shock to most of you fine people reading this, but I have some important information to tell you guys. Fern has been lying to all of us for the last 2 years. Ever since February 2nd, 2023, Fern has been claiming that he is a girl, which is false, and I have the evidence to prove so. So let's start from the beginning. February 15th, 2025, I was playing a game called Buffs with a companion named Redacted, and on that day I asked him a question that would lead me down a rabbit hole. Is Fern a dude? Ever since those words came out of my mouth, the question of whether Fern has been lying to all of us for the entire time he has been in the Buffsville server has not left my head, leading to me deciding to do a little bit of research. So let's begin with the evidence. At the bottom right of the evidence chart you will see a screenshot from a game called Outfit Loader. One of Fern's outfits is called Cool Guy. See how it says guy and not girl? Now I know this is something that is pretty irrelevant and doesn't hold much impact to my point, but trust me, there is much more where that came from. Now after seeing that, I decided to look into Fern's Roblox. While looking through his friends list I found another individual named Fern as well. Coincidence? I think not. The Fern user has very similar outfits to what Fern wears, and upon scrolling through all their outfits I came across a couple that struck me. I noticed that a lot of their outfits had the transgender flag on them and gay flag on them. At this point everything started making a lot more sense. On November 11th, 2023, Fern publicly came out as being gay, the buff sever. Upon seeing this I came to the conclusion that Fern is actually a dude who just identifies as a girl and is pushing the fact that he is. Now you might think that, Redacted, this is just all a coincidence. Well, explain this to me then. How come the Twitter page that is connected to Fern's supposed alt account leads us to an account which is also of course named Fern? And explain how both ages of Fern and this other Fern are almost identical. Also, for some strange reason both Ferns are a part of the same group, Epic Department, which is a very exclusive group, making it very hard to get into. Now if you want to know how I know that it's an exclusive group, well, I ain't no snitch, but I got a person on the inside. Now after all that information, tell me, do you still think it's all a coincidence? Both being gay, both named Fern, both being basically the same age, both supposedly female, both having the same interests, and both being a part of this exclusive group with only 5k members. This friend of Fern is obviously his alt account. The evidence speaks for itself. Now, if you still somehow don't believe me, I have more evidence. So as most of you already know, Fern claims to be voluntarily mute for over 5 years now. Now if you look back at the chart I provided to you at the beginning of this paper,
you'll see a conversation where Fern seems to be agitated whether it be as a joke or not. She types in all caps, "Because I am mute, dumb idiot." Then this curt fella responds saying, "So you use sign language?" which Fern responds to no. Now this statement alone might be nothing, but once you take into account the fact that Fern has been voluntarily mute for over 5 years and still hasn't learned sign language is absurd. Now at this point you might be asking yourself, well, Redacted, so what does this have to do with Fern being born a man? Well, I'm getting there. Fern has been using the fact that he is voluntarily mute as an excuse to not talk in VC or communicate at all, using their voice for the sole purpose of not exposing their true masculine voice. I talked to one of my co-detectives about their thoughts on this, and they recalled a conversation that they and Fern had, where they asked Fern why they haven't learned sign language yet, and Fern responded, "Because I write." What type of weak-ass excuse is that? I also decided to talk to Fern a little, and when I asked him why they decided to become mute, they responded with, "I don't know, I just really do not feel the need to talk. I don't like it. It feels like a waste of energy and of others' time. It is not really an insecurity, it is just a lack of want or need." Now earlier I stated that Fern claims that writes when she wants to communicate. She apparently does this because it saves energy. However, writing is much more work than speaking, finding a pencil, pulling out a piece of paper, then writing down some words, just to ask someone how their day is. Even if he uses his phone to write messages, he still has to go through the process of unlocking their mobile device, opening up whatever the app they use to communicate with, and type in the sentence. Within that time you could say what you wanted to say and more. Fern also claimed that it's a waste of other people's time. The real waste of time is you pulling out whether it be phone or paper and having the individual wait as you type in a message. See how absurd he sounds, talking about saving energy and time. The reason I believe Fern has been pretending to be a man is because they either wanted to stand out, or the more sensible argument, to avoid judgment for being transsexual. After a couple more months of research, I have found undeniable evidence that Fern is a man. Not long ago, Fern sent an Instagram reel link, and if you don't know, once an account sends an Instagram link, that account will be suggested to you. The account that was linked to it was named FernKip. At that time the account was originally private and then randomly set to not private. That's when my fellow detectives on the Fern case were able to snatch a lot of photos. I was only able to get a screenshot of the account after being set on private. Also, this account is also following Guess, another Robloxian skater and one of Fern's friends. Now that we have proof Fern is actually in.
Dita man, let me backtrack a little. You recall when I said Fern was using the idea of being voluntarily mute so that he wouldn't have to expose his manly voice? Well, turns out I was right like usual. I have a video of Fern speaking. As I said, he does have a more masculine voice, leading him to lie about being voluntarily mute.
Month is it? What day in the month is it?
March.
What day?
What?
What day is it?
It's Tuesday.
What day? What letter? What number? I mean,
March.
No, that's the month.
3. Because it's March.
no.
It's the 5th day of the month.
I am unable to post the video of Fern speaking because I don't think you can post videos in Google Docs. However, if you made it this far into the Fern case, just slide me a DM and I will send you the video. I honestly could care less that Fern is actually a dude. I just find it funny that they are trying to convince everyone that they were born a female, which is Bill Cap. Again, I don't have anything against trans people, but once you start lying, that's where I draw the line. And one last thing, Fern had the audacity to flame me for what clothing I wear while he doesn't even change his clothes, same pants. This concludes the Fern case. Thank you for your time.
Fun flew fast on wheels of fire. A Roskate eloped in bold attire. It had like flame and voice so fly, they'd wink and say, or from corn, or from Cork, not shy. An Irish lout, charming grin, spinning tails with every spin. In Dublin I danced on Colbert Street. Now watch me shred, no one compete. But whisper swirled like autumn leaves, curious minds of love that sleeve. Once loosed from Tosa, sharp and keen, said, Bun one skated the Lasunos team. Turns out behind the accent grand, there was a draw from geek, Oklahoma land. Not last but lad, no airborne. Fern's marks of Neth was swiftly torn. Yet crowd still cheered, the crowd still came, but skill and fire outshined the name. Though tales were told and truth was bent, Burn skated on without lament. For in a world that shifts and spinnies, the bold wear marks and sometimes wins. So here's to fun the rebel star, Roskate rogue. Kiss as they off